then it's a second button. Hey there, welcome to United Opposition with Scott and Marshall. Marshall and Scott, we're gonna take a mental health day today because I think we all need it. Let's go. Welcome back to United Opposition. So glad to be here with my friend Marshall. And when the world is collapsing around us, I think it's important that we take a moment and we go ahead and sometimes need to step away from the things that are dragging us down and the things that are bringing us down. But it doesn't mean giving up on life. And so I appreciate you, Marshall, being here. I appreciate our sponsor for today. It still is Freedom 2.0. Go to freedom20.com to get your water. This one here, the saying on the side of this one, I chose it specifically: freedom to speak, freedom to drink. So this is my freedom to drink, my Freedom 2.0 water. Here we go. Ah, yes, refreshing. Hey, things sometimes can get pretty chaotic. We even leading up to right now, trying to get our show going. We discovered when we got into the studio, a lot of things have been disconnected and not connected right, and we were rushing and flustered and like, oh my gosh. And sometimes when the world wants to kick us down, sometimes we want to give up. And I think it's a good idea that maybe we don't give up, but we go ahead and take a day. Go ahead and take a day. What do you think about that, Marshall? Do you want to take a day?
Yeah, sometimes though it's better to just go back to bed.
Sometimes it's better to go back to bed. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to give up. I don't want to give up. And the world is a mess right now. I mean, everything is overwhelming. There's so many overwhelming things going on. And to talk about those things sometimes can just take us over the edge. And every once in a while, Marshall, if you don't mind me saying, we almost didn't have a show today, but because it was just, there's a lot of things that were overwhelming, and how do we want to talk about this? But I really believe, Marshall and I really believe in this show. We really believe in the concept of this show, of being able to always be able to talk through, even when things are rough, even when things, for those of you who don't know, we used to have another show very similar to this. It was called A Valid Answer, and it was going on, and then COVID hit and we were all stuck at home, and I allowed myself to get overwhelmed. And I started getting tired of talking during the show because it always ended up being talking about COVID. And I just got tired of it. And I'm like, you know what, let's just stop. And then we never picked that back up. We never started it again. Yeah. I did not want that to happen this time. I made that mistake before. And I really want to show that we can talk through these things, even if it means we have to stop talking about big subjects. So we are not going to talk about politics today. We are not going to talk about heavy topics today. We are going to take a mental health day, and we are going to, I don't know, I suggested let's talk about our favorite Halloween candy. I don't know. The point is we felt it was important for you, our audience, to see us have a moment like this, to where when we want to give up, but we still push through. And Marshall, again, I appreciate you being on here, and I'm glad that I was able to make it on here. But we're not going to talk about any big stuff today. And what was interesting, I don't want it to sound like a monologue. If you want to say anything, Marshall, I don't want to.
No, I'm fine.
I was having a rough day today. I was having just things piling up and so many things that I had to do, and I had a haircut scheduled. And things are going across, texting back and forth, and having a tough time, and then getting a text while I was driving on my way to the, yes. I say, Billy, the comment, the Bible says we have to choose to see the goodness of God in the land, or we will faint. We got to be spiritually minded. I love that comment. Yes, sometimes we have to take to not faint. Sometimes we have to take that step. And that's what I learned today. I was on my way to my haircut, and I got another text. I'm like, oh, I wanted to respond to it. And I'm like, let me respond when I park at the haircut place. And I parked, pulled out my phone. And as I pulled out my phone, the stylist, the hairdresser came out. She's like, hey, I'm ready for you. I'm like, okay. I was already late because because I was flustered, I missed my turn and I was late coming to her. I had to turn around in traffic and I was really flustered. I said, I'm just going to go in and have a haircut. So I go in there, just sit down, go into the sink, and she's going to wash my hair and we're going to have the haircut. And all of a sudden I'm like, I can't do anything right now. I can't look at my phone. I can't try to text somebody. I can't make a phone call. I just have to sit here and let this person cut my hair and my, okay, insight. My favorite part of the haircut is when they wash my hair. I've almost fallen asleep in the minute and a half of washing my hair. I lay back and it's just the hot water I'm like, oh, and I found myself like, you know what? The world is just going everywhere right now, but I need to just sit here and have a haircut. I need to, and sitting through that changed what I needed to say on the text that I sent. And everything turned out good because I allowed that to happen. I allowed that moment of, we're going to take a moment and I'm going to have a haircut and everything can just keep on happening, but I'm going to take this moment. So this show is that moment for us, Marshall. Is there anything you want to add? Is there anything you want to say?
Well, with all the hair you have, did your haircut really take more than 5 minutes?
It's the experience. It's the experience of sitting there, and yeah, that's the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. You definitely I mean, even God rested, right?
Yep. Yeah.
There is a theology of leisure, and I think that we've lost that as a society, and I blame the Protestants for it. But we have to rediscover the theology of leisure, because there is time that is appointed to us to rest, and we're supposed to rest. And in our current economy, we don't have time to rest. You've got 5 days of work, and then on the 2 days, you got to take the kids to soccer practice. You got to clean the house. You got to, groom the pets. You got to groom yourself. There's all this other stuff you have to do. You have to monetize your hobby, and at the end of that, you need a proper vacation to decompress. But then how often do you get a proper vacation? Once or twice a year, maybe, and then we frown on that. We're like, well, if you're not here, then so-and-so is going to have to pick up your slack. So you work with him, you organize it, your boss will tell you, or whatever, depending on where you work, it can actually be as stressful to take a vacation as to not take a vacation. And that's intentional.
You should try doing it while you work for yourself.
Well, yeah, even worse, because when you're self-employed, you don't have a day off. You don't even have time off because you're always on the clock when you own your own business.
But
so
it is kind of
nice. More intense.
It is kind of nice because I can be like, you know what? I'm going to take my daughter to Magic Mountain on Tuesday. And then somebody says, hey, can you do this on Tuesday? I can just go, sorry, I already have another appointment. I don't have to tell them what it is.
Right. But as a society, we need to rediscover this theology of rest. Maybe it's something you need to do a sermon on, Scott.
Yeah, I like that.
Because it's actually very important that we take a break from the grind. Because when you die, someone else is going to be at your desk within the week doing the job that you were doing. And yeah, they'll send out a sympathy card or buy flowers or show up at the funeral, but then they got to go back to work. It's like the grind continues. The planet continues to spin. And what are we doing if we're grinding away constantly? We're not taking that break. The purpose of rest is not just that you can spend time in the Lord, if you will, but it's also so that you can think and contemplate and dream and tinker and play. Play right now, important.
Billy just added another comment. He commented earlier, but I have noticed when I give God my first fruit, such as the first thing in the morning prayer, communion with His Spirit and His Word, I'm a little better prepared for the day. It's taking that first part of the day, and really, when you look at it, I mean, it's one of the 10 commandments. To take a Sabbath, to do that, and really, what's happening is that when you take that Sabbath, when you take that day off, when you say, you know what, I'm going to let the world keep going around, and I'm going to take this, I'm going to take this day. as spiritually, what you're doing as a Christian, spiritually, you're saying, God, I trust you to take care of the things when I'm not there. When you say I can't take a break. I can't take a break. I can't take a break. I got to do it on my own. What you're saying as a Christian is, I don't trust you, God. I got to take care of it. I don't think that it can go a day. I don't think it can go a day without me. I've got to do it all. It's all on my shoulders. And God's like, really? You think you're doing this? It's a way of recognizing, taking a Sabbath day and taking a rest. So it's a way of recognizing that God is in control. And and sometimes it's a day of rest. Sometimes, sometimes it might be time for a sabbatical. Just like, like there was a day of rest, there was also a year of rest. Every 7 years, you don't work that field. Yeah. And maybe in your day, maybe an hour of rest, maybe a portion of your day is dedicated to rest. And like Billy's comment on, said that to start off the day that way. And we need that. We do need that. And it's good to recognize that. Unfortunately, sometimes it's when we get to the brink is when we finally realize that, when we get to our wit's end, and we allow ourselves to get to there. So go ahead.
One of the things I want to encourage people is to think about how what you're doing to others too. You may take a day of rest, but then on your day of rest, are you putting everybody around you to labor? One of my favorite stories about General Thomas Stonewall Jackson is he would never mail a letter if it would be in transit on a Sunday, because he didn't want to make a postal worker have to carry that letter on the Sabbath. And we need to think about that too. There's a lot of people who will take, this is a thing that I notice a lot of fellow Catholics do. They will take a day, like a day dedicated to prayer and fasting, like Fridays during Lent or Ash Wednesday in particular. And instead of going home and spending the day in prayer and fasting, they'll go out to a seafood restaurant, which it's like, no, it's not supposed to be a treat day. And it's not supposed to be a day where you put other people to work. It's supposed to be a day for you that everybody has the option to participate in, to take the day off and concentrate and meditate upon whatever it may be. In that case, on Ash Wednesday, you meditate upon your sinfulness and your mortality. That's what you should be doing. You should be fasting, and fasting doesn't mean you gorge yourself on all you can eat shrimp, but that's something we have to do just as a society in general. I think it's a good idea. There are European countries where everything is closed for like a month, not all at the same time, but everybody gets insane amounts of time off. But mental health is better in those nations. And we have to think about that. If all we're doing is grinding to make money for ourselves, or to make money for a boss, or making our employees grind to make money for us, is that really our purpose? And what's going to happen to all that money? I'm also fond of saying, I have this really cool coin collection. I have a big, huge coin and currency collection. And I'll buy a specimen. I'll buy a coin or a bill or whatever. And I think, wow, it's so cool to have this. But I will often think to myself, wait a minute. Here is a coin that goes back to the ancient Romans, or here is a bill that's hundreds of years old. How many people before me have held this? And you realize that you don't actually own these things. They own you more than you possess them. Because when you die, it's just going to go to the next person. So what the heck is it all about? Is it about stuff? Because I don't think it should be about stuff. I think it should be about experiences, and leisure is a big opportunity to have experiences.
My wife and I, when our kids were young, we made a point and we called it, like, where are we spending our money? We're buying memories. Like we're not going to buy stuff. We're going to buy memories. We're going to take the kids places. We're going to do things as a family so that we can look back. We're going to take a bunch of pictures and we're going to be able to look back, say, remember when we did that? Remember when we did that? That's what I want to spend money on. I want to buy memories. And so didn't end up with a lot of stuff, but at the same time, it doesn't mean you live with nothing. I mean, there's some things that are enjoyable and it's nice to have. I mean, I enjoy my car. I haven't spent a whole lot of money on it, but
Sure.
I'm really glad that I got it. I'm really glad that I got that little Miata. I drive it around. This weather is perfect for it, and top down, and that does bring me joy now. It does. Like, okay, so as a business owner, I became a business owner a year ago, started my own business stuff, and I've gotten a lot of advice from people say, some of the best time to talk on the phone with people and everything is in your car. Utilize that time. Don't waste it. You can get a lot done. And I'm like, my car ride is my rest for the day. That for me, that top down and the music playing as I'm going, I don't want to be on the phone with somebody. I want to drive. I want to enjoy that car. And it's a way of just letting my hair loose, right? Letting the wind blow in my hair and letting that be a moment. I don't need to be as efficient. I would rather be rejuvenated. And so there's things I know, this when you're saying, the accumulation of things and the things one day somebody else is going to own that car, or it's going to be rotting in some junk place. And I get it, but there are times when you can enjoy the things that you have. Just don't become a slave to those things. If it's always just getting the next dollar, getting the next thing, I gotta have the next thing, then when are you stopping to enjoy the thing that you have? When are you stopping to,
Precisely.
And that's what we got to do.
So if you're an owner, give your workers breaks and vacations, and make sure they can take those vacations. Give them paid time off, or pay them enough so they can save enough to do those things. And you might have to talk to them, because I remember I worked a job where I didn't have a paid vacation and I wasn't paid enough to take a vacation. And I explained this to my boss at one point. He's like, you should take some time off. I'm like, how can I? And that's when they introduced the paid vacation policy, because they realized that their workers, they either had to pay us more or they had to give us paid time off. And giving us paid time off, it was cheaper. So they did so. But I was grateful for that. And that has to be done so people can take that time off. And what I would do is, after I had like a week off and I came back to work, I was immensely more productive. I was invigorated. My attitude was better. It was certainly more profitable, I believe, for my employer to give me that. So if you're an employer, I would encourage you to be charitable and graceful and give those things to your employees. And for those of you who are off, be mindful of what you're putting other people through on your time off too. If you're taking full advantage of the service economy and you're making everybody, run ragged to wait on you,
better be tipping them really good.
Well, maybe just don't do that so much.
Yeah.
Maybe don't. Well, it's their job. It may be their job, but come on, they're servants, not slaves. They work for you, but it's different.
I would even say servers instead of servants.
There's no shame in being a servant. There's no shame. God is a servant. Mm-hmm. Jesus was a servant. He washed the feet. There's no shame in performing service. And I know you know this and you agree. Mm-hmm. It's just, we should not look down upon people who serve, those who wash your feet or wash your hair. We don't frown on them. You don't frown on the person who gave you a haircut. I do, because they made a lot of money for very little work, but right? I want that job.
But even then, in that moment, I recognize, I go, I'm not being very talkative. I'm not being, and I was literally sitting in the haircut chair. So I go, hey, I just want to say, I'm sorry if I'm coming off as cold. I said, I just have a lot of things in my mind. I'm just, I'm not engaged. And she was like, no, that was great. Some people talk, some people don't. It's all right, guys. I just want to make sure it didn't seem like it was being directed at you. But yeah, I was very mindful of that. Right. Yeah, that's something like my dad. My dad, I remember being a kid and we'd be at the grocery store line and my dad would be like, hey, I'm gonna make her laugh. I'm gonna make her smile. She looks like she needs a smile today. And I remember he would go out of his way, to make sure I go out of my way whenever we go eat at a restaurant or somewhere, or a server comes up. I'm like, what is your name? Okay. And I'm like, I get it through my head. I want to call them by their name. every single
Right.
time, because
Right.
it's important. They're a person, they're a human being. They deserve a good tip. They deserve to be treated nice. They deserve, even if the food is wrong, even if everything's messed up, even if they didn't come back to, they're still a human being and they deserve to be treated well. And that extra smile, that extra dollar, you never know is how much. I'll tell my wife, she's like, how much we would tip, and I tipped a little extra. She's like, yeah. I go, well, what's that extra dollar or two going to do in my pocket compared to what it could do to that person in
Yeah.
that moment?
Yeah.
In that moment, the
Mhm.
fact that person got an extra dollar or an extra $2 in their tip could help make their day, or it could just sit in my pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I have exactly that same thought. That's crazy that we have an identical thought. I do think, if I make this for an extra $2, am I going to feel it? Probably not. But that person, it
They
could
might.
make a difference. Servers do make decent money, but per hour, but they don't work very many hours. People
And they don't get
realize
treated
that.
very well a lot of times.
Yeah, yeah, they really
I-
do. They have to. It's like going on stage. I know that because I did that job for many years.
Yeah, I know.
So
And I want to make sure, like, I want to be, I mean, maybe it's kind of selfish. I want them to remember serving me. I want them to go home and be like, there was that one guy in the red shirt, man. It was a really nice interaction. I want them to go home feeling that. I want that to bring them up. I want their experience serving my table to make their day better. I think we should all do that.
Now, that said, I do think every young person should work for at least 2 years, a job where they have to touch nasty stuff with their hands, whether they're bussing tables or cleaning something or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I mean, I remember my dad telling the story. Again, my dad's family, they immigrated from Mexico into the United States, migrant farm workers, and my dad's dad was a migrant farm worker who said, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. He ended up working in a butcher's shop and interning into there and learning that. But once his kids were teenagers, once my dad was a teenager, his dad was like, you know what? You're going to go work in the fields. Just so you know that you don't ever want to do that for the rest of your life. So in the summer, he would make my dad and his brother work the fields, just so they had that dirt in their hand.
Well, for me, the purpose of that approach, though, is for people to learn that you're not above that.
Yep.
You can clean a bathroom at work. You can pick something up off the floor. You can wash the dishes. You can do
I've been a janitor.
these things that people, look down upon. And it's like, why? What would the world be without janitors? It would be a
Dirty
fetid mess. It would be disease-ridden. We'd be dead. People don't realize that. They don't treat the janitor with due respect. But janitors
really,
are as important to our society as doctors.
How important is sanitation to our society?
Correct.
Like, seriously.
Yeah. Well, I guess travel someplace where they don't have sanitation.
And you'll appreciate it.
Exactly. So that's the thing, and I don't want my children, and I feel that everybody should have this attitude that, yes, I'm willing to get my hands dirty and help if I have to, because that's what at the end of the day, man, we're all in this together, and we turn it into heaven or hell by our choices.
I like this comment that Billy just put on there. He says, amen to that. Don't ever submit yourself under a pastor. They ain't willing to clean the toilet.
So there you go. But that's true, right? Jesus
or any leader.
Feet.
Yeah, or
Jesus
any leader.
Washed. Yeah. Or any leader. That's exactly it. So, I'm going to vote for the person who's willing to work at McDonald's.
We're not talking about politics today. We are not talking about politics today. We're taking a mental health day.
Oh,
no heavy topics. No heavy topics. Mental health.
I have to say that, and I've been craving McDonald's French fries ever since Trump did the fry thing.
It's been a while since I've been to McDonald's. I really
it's
Big
not
Mac
good
and
for
fries.
You. Not a good choice, but
gosh, it sure tastes so good. It does. I don't know. I mean, whatever they put in the fries, crack cocaine or whatever it is, it's sugar basically, but Yeah, gosh. Now I'm
Yeah.
crazy. I'm crazy. Maybe anybody can vote on this or make any comments on this. I love eating McDonald's French fries with McDonald's sweet and sour sauce, like the sweet and sour sauce you get for the McNuggets. McDonald's French
The
fries and sweet and sour sauce. Hot take.
the hot
You should try that.
hot mustard sauce.
Hot mustard, really? I didn't know they had that.
Yeah, for the nuggets.
Wow. Yeah, no, the sweet
Yeah.
and sour. Because everybody else's sweet and sour is more like the sweet. It's like the reddish sweet and sour you get in worse. Theirs is like this greenish and it's more on the sour tart side, and it's perfect with those fries. I don't know how we got on that subject. Oh yeah, Trump at the McDonald's. But yeah, that's my hot take, right?
There you go.
To do that. And so yeah, we're taking this day. Now I joked around, Marshall, when we were communicating earlier today. I'm like, hey, if we want to take a day and not hit any major topics, I remember in our other podcast, we did an episode on the highly controversial Star Wars versus Star Trek. We did
That's
a whole
right.
show about that. So I mean, so I'm like, hey, we're coming up at the end of the month. You know, what's your favorite Halloween candy? Let's
Yeah.
debate that and why is it, can we agree that candy corn is from the devil?
No, I'm down with candy corn.
What?
Yeah. Candy
I mean,
corn.
if I wanted to
Scott, you're in the minority here, bro.
if I wanted to
There you
chew,
go. There
if I
you
wanted to-
go.
if I
You're
wanted
outvoted.
if I wanted to chew on a bunch of wax, I would just take a bite of a candle. Why would I have candy corn? Like that is
Right.
like
No,
Have,
and
have you ever had the multiple fall flavored candy corn? Great.
no, I can't do the candy corn. I like Smarties. The little rolled up packages with the little Smarties.
see, and that's like eating chalk, bro.
Yeah, I already lost my tooth on some taffy.
Yeah, I don't do taffy. But this year, oh my gosh, I've really been enjoying the big gummy lifesavers, lifesavers, like the
Tasty.
big gummy ones with like the crystalline sugar. Oh, those are so bad for me. But I would say right now that is my favorite Halloween candy. If I get a bag full of those, sorry, if my daughter gets a bag full of those when she goes trick or treating, I'm really, really happy.
Yeah. Well, you have to remember to inspect the candy, make sure there's no, bad stuff in there.
Yeah, I got to
Right.
inspect it and I make sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, these Reese's peanut butter cups are bad for you. I need to hold those aside. The
That's
Lifesaver gummies. I need to hold that aside. That's not good for you, little daughter.
Yeah. So I want to ask Mike if he ever, when he was a kid, did you take and eat the white part of the candy corn, then the orange part, and finally the yellow part?
How old of a kid?
Like yesterday.
I do that now, bro.
Well, there you go. There you go. Oh yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
worst. You already know mine. Worst Halloween candy. You already know mine. What's your guys's?
Oh, definitely the Smarties. Now, but I didn't give my favorite either.
Oh,
but
well, yeah. What's your favorite, Marshall?
you just assumed my favorite. My favorite's Almond Joy. I like the Almond Joy.
Oh,
I like those. But
that's the one that's the coconut and the almond.
Yep. But the worst one would be, like you said, the Smarties. Oh, Scott, we dropped Scott. That's what he gets for not liking the same candy as me.
Come back.
Don't remove me. Start cam.
There you go.
There we go.
Can you hear you?
All right,
Yeah,
we there?
yeah, we're good. Yeah,
Now we can't hear Marshall.
I hear me just fine.
What did we do?
What
Everything was running fine.
What happened? Try to make this thing.
This happened last week.
Yeah,
Oh, there he is.
there
he
we
is.
are. Okay.
Let's try not to mess with anything else until the show is over.
Yeah, I wasn't touching nothing. I was just fantasizing.
Oh no, I
about
wasn't.
Almond
I
Joy.
wasn't talking to you. You're fantasizing about Almond Joy.
Yeah,
What's the old jingle? Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.
yeah.
Sometimes
Well,
Almond
Joy
joys
like
have
that.
nuts, mounds don't.
Yep.
That's right. That's right.
Man, that goes back. Do they still have those commercials? Is that just because we're old?
I
think
don't
we're
know. I
all
don't
old.
watch TV, so I wouldn't know. But yeah, I think the worst candy for me is, like you said, the Smarties and the little.
Really, those are some of my favorites.
Yeah, those are my no. they're
What
like-
about the gum that's hard as a rock and runs out of flavor in like 10 seconds?
I don't even do.
Oh
gum.
yeah, those suck.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
They're
the
the
bazooka
worst.
ones, the square ones, is like,
It's like biting into a rock and
Yeah,
then the flavor's
and it's
like
like,
gone.
The
ooh,
shit.
that's nice and sweet. Where'd the flavor go?
Chiclets. Yeah, those are called chiclets. Remember those?
Oh, I remember chiclets.
Chiclets are better than those things, though. They're
Yes.
like bazooka
Really?
gum or something like that. I don't know.
No, the bazooka gum was all right. It was hard. I was always hard, but it had a little comic.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. So there you go.
Well, everybody, it's been 30 minutes. We've taken this 30 minutes as a mental health day. I think, Marshall, let's go ahead and plan, because next Tuesday is going to be a very busy day. And I think maybe we should let people go to the polls and vote, and us not do a show next week. And we'll come back after
I
election
thought we
day.
were doing live election coverage all night.
Live election coverage all night. I mean, I don't know. Is 511 doing that? Mike?
We'll probably do something. Yeah.
If 511 is doing something, maybe Marshall and I will join, but I think we're going to not do our specific show next week for election day. Let election happen. And then we're going to come back the week after. Marshall, thank you for coming on and taking this mental health day. Thank you for, again, for being part of this show. And I know that you and I both really believe in what this show is doing, and what it stands for. And I'm glad we're able to do that in front of everybody. Last words, Marshall?
Thank you to all of you, and pray for all of us in our nation.
Definitely will do. Until in 2 weeks, we'll see you guys. God bless you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.